The lunch rush had barely begun when the entire restaurant fell into an eerie silence. Plates stopped clinking, conversations froze, and every head turned toward a young waitress standing beside an elderly tourist whose eyes were filled with panic. Just moments earlier, people had laughed as the confused man struggled to explain himself in rapid French. No one understood him. Some customers even smiled awkwardly, believing he was simply being dramatic. Then the waitress took one calm step forward and answered him in flawless, elegant French. The room went completely still. What happened over the next few hours would not only change her life forever, but would remind everyone watching that kindness has a way of reaching places money never can. Before we continue this unforgettable story, please take a moment to like this video, leave a comment telling us where you're watching from, share this story with someone who believes in second chances, and subscribe to the Kindness Project if you believe that one act of kindness can change a life forever. Her name was Mireya Sutton, a 26-year-old waitress working at a small family restaurant in Charleston, South Carolina. Every morning she walked nearly 40 minutes from her tiny apartment because her old car had finally stopped working months earlier. She worked double shifts almost every day, smiling through aching feet and sleepless nights. Few people knew that after leaving work, she spent evenings caring for her grandmother, who had raised her after both of her parents passed away in a tragic accident years earlier. Life had never been generous to Mireya, but she refused to let hardship steal her warmth. She greeted every customer with the same gentle smile, whether they ordered a simple cup of coffee or an expensive steak. What almost nobody knew was that Mireya had once dreamed of becoming an interpreter. During college she had fallen in love with languages. She studied French obsessively, borrowing old textbooks from libraries and practicing pronunciation by listening to public radio broadcasts late into the night. Her professors believed she had extraordinary talent, but dreams often surrender to reality when bills begin piling up. Her grandmother became ill, tuition became impossible, and Mireya quietly left school without telling most of her classmates. The language she loved became something she carried silently inside her heart while serving coffee and clearing tables. That bright spring afternoon, the elderly French tourist entered the restaurant looking exhausted and frightened. His hands trembled as he searched every pocket before realizing his passport and wallet had disappeared somewhere during his morning walk. Unable to explain himself in English, he became increasingly distressed while several customers watched helplessly. The restaurant manager looked uncomfortable, unsure how to help. Before anyone could call the police, Mireya approached with calm confidence. In perfect French she reassured the man that everything would be all right. Her words carried warmth instead of pity. Within seconds the man's breathing slowed. Tears gathered in his eyes, not because his problems had disappeared, but because someone had finally understood him. Unknown to everyone in the restaurant, another customer had quietly witnessed the entire scene. Sitting alone near the window was Adrian Vescari, one of the country's most successful technology investors and a billionaire known for avoiding attention whenever possible. He had chosen the small restaurant simply because he wanted a peaceful lunch before attending a business conference nearby. Instead, he watched something far more valuable than any boardroom presentation. He saw genuine compassion expressed without expectation of reward. For nearly an hour Mireya remained beside the elderly traveler. She contacted the local French consulate, translated every conversation, helped him file a police report, arranged temporary identification, and even insisted that the restaurant prepare him a warm meal free of charge. When the tourist apologized for having no money, Mireya quietly paid for his lunch herself using part of the cash she had been saving to buy medicine for her grandmother later that week. She never announced what she had done. She simply smiled and returned to serving other tables as though nothing remarkable had happened. Adrian noticed everything. Most people assumed billionaires were impressed by expensive things. Adrian had spent decades surrounded by luxury, but success had taught him a different lesson. Character revealed itself in ordinary moments when nobody believed they were being watched. He watched Mireya help elderly customers carry their bags. He watched her comfort a little girl who had accidentally dropped her ice cream. He watched her apologize sincerely when the kitchen delayed an order, even though the mistake was not hers. None of it appeared rehearsed. Kindness had become part of who she was. When Adrian finished his meal, he quietly asked another employee about the young waitress. The answer surprised him. They explained that Mireia had abandoned college to care for her grandmother, worked nearly 70 hours every week, and still volunteered at a neighborhood literacy program on Sunday afternoons teaching immigrant children basic English. Adrian left without introducing himself. Most people assumed he simply paid his bill and walked away. The following morning, however, an elegant envelope arrived at the restaurant addressed to Mireia. Inside rested a handwritten letter and a first-class plane ticket to Paris. At first she believed someone was playing a cruel joke. The letter explained that Adrian Vescari owned an international educational foundation supporting people whose compassion deserved opportunity. After watching her extraordinary patience and remarkable fluency in French, he had contacted several academic partners overnight. She had been offered a fully funded place in an intensive translation and international communication program in Paris. Tuition, housing, travel expenses, and living costs would all be covered. She would not owe a single dollar. The only request was that one day she use her education to help others, just as she had helped a frightened stranger without expecting anything in return. Mireia read the letter again and again until tears blurred the words. Yet happiness quickly collided with heartbreak. Accepting the opportunity meant leaving her grandmother behind. For several sleepless nights she questioned whether dreams were worth pursuing if they required sacrifice. She almost declined the offer. Then something unexpected happened. Her grandmother gently confessed that she had secretly worried for years that Mireia had buried her future because of family responsibility. She reminded her granddaughter that love should never become a prison. Real love gives people courage to fly, even when saying goodbye hurts. Neighbors organized meal schedules for her grandmother. Volunteers from the literacy center promised regular visits. The restaurant customers, many of whom had become friends over the years, collected donations to repair Mireia's broken car so her grandmother would have transportation while she was away. One act of kindness had quietly inspired hundreds of others. Weeks later, sunlight poured across Charleston International Airport as Mireia stood holding the same envelope that had once seemed impossible. She looked back only once before boarding the plane. Fear still lived inside her, but hope had finally become stronger. Paris welcomed her with unfamiliar streets, breathtaking architecture, and endless challenges. The coursework demanded perfection. She struggled with homesickness and loneliness. Some classmates came from wealthy families and prestigious universities, while she worried constantly about whether she truly belonged. Whenever doubt returned, she remembered the frightened tourist whose gratitude had begun this impossible journey. She realized she had never been chosen because she was perfect. She had been chosen because compassion cannot be taught as easily as vocabulary or grammar. Years later, Mireia graduated with highest honors and became an interpreter for humanitarian organizations assisting refugees, disaster victims, and families separated by international crises. Her gift for languages now reunited loved ones, calmed frightened children, and restored dignity to people during their darkest moments. Every life she touched became another reminder that kindness creates ripples far beyond what we can see. As for Adrian Vescari, he never described himself as the hero of the story. Whenever journalists asked why he invested so heavily in ordinary people, he simply replied that talent opens doors, but character changes the world. He believed wealth achieved its greatest purpose when it gave deserving people the chance they had never been offered. If this story touched your heart, please like this video, share it with someone who needs hope today, leave your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe to the Kindness Project for more unforgettable stories that remind us humanity is still alive. Special request, before this story ends, please comment with the words, "Kindness always finds its way." Because somewhere today, another tired waitress, another struggling student, another lonely stranger, or another forgotten dream is waiting for someone to notice. We rarely know which small decision will become the turning point in another person's life. A simple conversation, a helping hand, or a few compassionate words may travel farther than any airplane ever could. And sometimes, when kindness speaks the language of the heart, it reaches people across every border, every culture, and every impossible distance, proving that the greatest journeys do not begin with wealth or privilege, they begin with one selfless act that inspires another, until hope itself becomes contagious.